Hey everyone, Rushlock here with another episode of Rixx Javix Evaganda coverage. Today we have There Is Some AI in My Soup, which starts off with a link to an interview with Hilmar. It's about an hour-long video. I've watched only a couple of minutes of it. I'll probably watch the rest of it this weekend when I can carve out some time. But Rixx has some thoughts on it, and more, I guess, focused on the article here, some thoughts kind of running parallel with it. We'll go over those here in just a moment. I highly recommend this interview with Hilmar to any EVE player who cares about the game, the history, and the future of EVE Online. He also touches on the concepts that are driving the potential use of blockchain in Project Awakening, which I think should go a long way toward easing our minds over that hot topic button, at least for now. For those who are unaware, CCP and Hilmar recently announced securing about $40 million in funding to start the process of developing a AAA title set in New Eden, running presumably separate from our current EVE Online Tranquility experience. And the hot topic button that Rixx is referring to here is that it was to be based on blockchain technology for the sake of managing data, but obviously with the connotation, people are wondering how eventually crypto will certainly must be involved, and it's all a scam, and then everyone getting all their pitchforks ready. So let's move on to the article here. I want to avoid discussing those topics in this post and pull something else out of the interview to discuss today. You may have missed it, but during his talk, he briefly touched upon some important underpinnings in the EVE universe that are worth pointing out. These essentially are foundational core attributes surrounding resource distribution and scarcity that are distributed based on a deterministic and often predictable model, instead of a more robust and modern procedural-based model that would be significantly more difficult to predict. And while I'll happily leave the debate about resource management and scarcity to others more knowledgeable than me, it did bring some things to mind. How deeply does deterministic modeling go into the foundational core of code of EVE Online? And are we too far down the rabbit hole to evolve into a more procedurally based system? To pause there for a moment, and Rixx will go into this in a bit. Rixx seems to be wondering if the product can evolve. I'm wondering if players can evolve, because the next generation of players has already moved in that direction in terms of expectation and familiarity. And Rixx is going to touch on this. It's the long-term players that the question, in my opinion, should be posed to: can they evolve? What does this portend when it comes to EVE's mortality and longevity? That is a lot of questions I don't have the answers for, but I think it's worth pondering over, especially in light of my train of thought when it comes to the current state of EVE, or current state of AI, and what it could mean for EVE Online now and in the future. I've written in the past about how increasingly powerful AI could drive content and engagement within EVE, from increased PvE, immersion, lore-based engagements, and background activity, and much more. Integrating powerful AI into the universe seems more and more relevant these days. In only the past year, the tools available for doing so have gotten more powerful and encompassing. Even if we limit ourselves to thinking about AI simply from the basis of a powerful chatbot, the impact such a system could have on EVE Online is incredible. Imagine the NPCs engaging with you in local chat, enough so that it would be nearly impossible to distinguish them from a real player, especially some real players. That alone is a significant improvement to the immersion and gameplay, and that is only one very simple example. I want to pause there for a moment. I agree it would be an improvement in terms of immersion for sure. Something that kind of jumped out to me about this is it seems to be trying to replace other players. And is this because the market presence of the MMO in the gaming industry has diminished, and is utilizing tech like this meant to introduce a new boom in user activity? Possibly, I don't know. But the initial takeaway that I have from that concept is, oh look, we don't need to interact with other players because we can interact with a better AI and a better NPC. I think there are some significant pros and cons to that could also be explored in greater detail. Let's get back to the article here. For those of you, let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Yeah. Imagine the NPCs engaging with you in local real players, alone significant improvement, immersion in gameplay. There we go. This is certainly possible right now. For those of you who have been using ChatGPT for months now, the idea is nothing groundbreaking. You can easily imagine a world in which the entire NPC universe of EVE Online suddenly becomes alive in ways it could never have before. That idea alone is entirely transformative if done right. And that concept kind of existed in the early days of Star Citizen development. At least when I say early days, I'm thinking my perspective, which is like 2011, 2013-ish, where they were talking about having a more dynamic living universe where instead of just talking to an NPC, being given a haul of, or a load of missiles to haul from point A to point B, instead, that mission would be procced because another NPC decided, oh, we need more missiles. Hey, tell other NPC Jim that we need more missiles over here. All right, NPC Bob put out a mission for hauling missiles. And then player comes in, picks up the missiles, moves from point A to point B, might get attacked on the way. If they are attacked on the way, and those missiles don't make it, Bob, you're going to have to raise the pay, because there's hazard pay going on, man, like, something's going on. And then an Eve player would immediately go, we can abuse that, right? That's just something that happens with that whole system, but it's an idea that's been around for a while, and as Rixx points out, it's about it being executed correctly. The biggest worry any longtime player of EVE Online has as we rapidly approach the 20th anniversary is this: a sea of change so large that it renders the universe of EVE Online as suddenly quaint and old. I think instead it's more about them worrying about their perceived EVE Online as suddenly being quaint and old, which has already happened, in my opinion. And that's where you see a lot of pushback for monetization changes and in-game system changes, and why is this a thing all of a sudden? It's because the game is being prepared for future generation of user and is no longer being designed focused around a former type of archetype of user, and for many that's a hard pill to swallow. It has so far been able to avoid that issue simply because the industry itself hasn't changed all that much in 20 years. Hilmar says as much in the interview, and he's right. Hardware has gotten faster, cheaper, and more complex, but the fundamentals that drive the gaming industry have remained relatively stable for a long time. I'm gonna have to watch the interview and see what those fundamentals are. I wonder if blockchain and NFT, crypto buzzwords, are distracting us from the real transformative technology that is rapidly, some say too rapidly, fundamentally changing our world. Yes, absolutely. You have to remember, from Hilmar's perspective, he was very proud and happy to announce this project, and all of us old nerds were grabbing pitchforks and starting to polish them up and sharpen them up for, you know, the next money-squeezing scam, right? I think with Hilmar's history with EVE Online, he has an established history of thinking outside the box and leveraging things like technology in a different way than may be anticipated. But with the way the story has played out so far with crypto buzzwords, it's very understandable, right? And I don't think Rixx is diminishing people's concerns or worries about it. Instead, I think he's trying to shine light on maybe there's value in having a little bit of optimism, or at least measured benefit of the doubt that, hey, if anybody's going to try to leverage this stuff in a different way than the majority, it would probably be CCP and or Hilmar doing so. Obviously, there's no guarantee, and if we see loot boxes in our new crypto game, whatever year it comes out, we can look back on this and laugh. But until then, I think Rixx wants to encourage folks to kind of keep an open mind toward where this could end up leading in terms of actually providing a new form of entertainment. AI is impacting art, tech, and hundreds of other businesses right now. What happens when it is tied into a procedurally generated gaming system? We have yet to see the impact such a change might have on the gaming world, or on a universe we all play in. But I suspect it won't be long before we do. And that's true. Some might argue, well, there's already crypto games out there. Yeah, but they suck. You know, we're speaking in broad generality here. Nobody has created a successful, long-running crypto or even blockchain-based gaming platform. It doesn't exist, and it will. You know, it's been attempted numerous times already without success or without any meaningful success. That might be a bit subjective on my end by what is meaningful, but we haven't seen somebody quote-unquote pull it off yet, right? Rixx says, I'm not a developer. I'm someone who has been trained to spot trends in culture, tech, and the world for the past 40 years. That is essentially what I do professionally. And then figure out the best way for companies can embrace those trends through marketing, creative, and brand executions. It seems apparent to me that the world is potentially poised on the brink of a huge transformative cliff here. And what, if anything, that cliff will mean to the long-term viability of EVE Online is anyone's guess. But I have a feeling it could be huge. Lots of questions. Thank you for joining us on the read here. If you haven't done so already, click the follow button down below. I'm sorry, the subscribe button. We're on YouTube at the moment. And leave a comment with your thoughts. What do you think how this will all play out? We'll see you in the next one.